Town Hall Heroes. Happy birthday, What up, everyone? Welcome to TownHall Heroes, episode 168. I'm Solid Jake. This week, we're talking about HGC 2018 and its return. The new hero that's been teased for the last 2 days. Who is it? I don't know. He doesn't know. Patch notes that hit today, and maybe some other random ramblings. This week, we've got Dunk Train Bakery is still sick. He called it the Aussie flu. I don't know what that means. And JHow, the man himself who just moved across the United States from Florida to California to be a full-time HGC caster. JHow, how much does moving suck?
I've been out of a home. I finally moved into a place yesterday. My body feels like it's dead. But I think just the time frame, the timing and everything, I'm pretty tired, to say the least. So not good. But
the weather's nicer over here, though, isn't it?
Is it? Because when I first got here last week, it was like cold, but then I heard Florida was cold. Like summertime, it will be better. Today, it's really nice, but is it?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Definitely in summer, you're going to be glad you're here. Let me tell you that.
Summer,
I've been to Florida in the summer. That is not the place you want to be.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's actually terrible. I spent 6 weeks there in spring, and even that was hellish enough for me. You know, since we have bakery here, Dunk, can you replicate bakery for us just for the intros?
Oi, mates. Cheerio. I'm bakery. I'm up late tonight, so I can't talk too loud. All right, there you go.
I don't know if that was the best or worst British impersonation I've ever heard. Dunk, what's good, man?
What's funny is, for the amount of Monty Python I've watched, you would think I'd be able to do an accent, but I just can't to save my life. I mean, so obviously my accents aren't good. You ask me what's good, not my accents. Other than that, just been hanging out, playing some Hero League. I am perilously close to the diamond mines, like having horrific games. I don't know what's happening, and
Dude,
that's my life.
I think that's everyone lately. Like, all right, so I had like the saltiest, worst play stream of my life yesterday. I'm not proud of it, but sometimes you just got to say, well, that happened, you know. And this is my match history right here. This is a little
What a disaster.
This is Jake when so I had and this is my first Hero League season where I've ever grinded in my life. Period. The end. And I swapped to tanks and I started seeing really good results, especially with Diablo, right? So I climbed a plat 4 I climbed a diamond 4. And then we just dumpster-tiered into oblivion the last couple of days. So that's been fun. That's I mean, you said you're perilously close to the diamond mines. Maybe I'll see you soon.
What do you mean by it's been fun, though?
I mean, frankly, it's actually really interesting at how many players I play with that actually know of the stream. Like because I used to just stream quick match and stuff, and people don't really recognize you because those quick match players really aren't actively watching esports. Therefore, I'm completely irrelevant to them, right? Because that's kind of the space where I exist as a content creator. And playing Hero League, there's honestly, it seems like probably more than half the players know who I am. So people come into the chat, and I mean, I'm not necessarily BM, but I always point out what went wrong, right? And whether it's me or whether it's a Muradin or a draft pick that was really, really bad. So I hope I'm educating in those regards, and I'm learning a lot too, because Hero League and pro play are not at all the same thing. It's not even remotely close in terms of like what you see working. But we'll get to that. I mean, everyone knows that that's how it is. But for me, learning the Hero League meta has been fun. not necessarily always laughing and smiling fun, but still fun in its own painful, suffering way.
You just embrace it, man. Just embrace it.
You gotta. You really do. But
oh, my team picked 3 mages. Just wrap your arms around it and embrace it.
Against like, you guys get the point. Yeah, it's been interesting to say the least. But there's a lot going on with HGC returning this week. On top of that, we had Blizzard go ahead and tease the next hero to come out, and of course a new patch hit today. So we're gonna get to that. But JHow, I wanted to talk to you because, you know, obviously we, in all of last year, we cast the Open Division together, and you know, we've cast many lands together in the past. But obviously the goal, especially for someone like you who's able to relocate, is the HGC, right? Being able to be a mainstay commentator. And Dread and Gilly did go ahead and tweet that they have a lot of obligations this year and they could not commit full time. So that created an opportunity. And you got that call from Blizzard. What? That's pretty sweet, right? Move across the world. Did you hesitate? Did you hesitate? Oh, he's hesitating right now.
He's hesitating now.
Oh, he's lagging.
No.
Okay.
It was, I think, surprising more than anything. A pleasant surprise. I'd already been lined up on other stuff, I guess, at that point. So it's like, I got the message. It's like, hey, can we talk? And I'm like, sure, I'm streaming. Can I talk to you later? And like, I had no idea. I thought it was just going to be a casual conversation. Then a few hours later, I take the call. I'm like, well, I can't believe I pushed that call off by 3 hours.
What if you called back? They're like, oh, we were going to talk to you about something, but we don't need to anymore. And then you just like,
mood. What does Blizzard want?
But yeah, it was one of those things that you get the call, and you know, I messaged my brothers, my family, and stuff like, this is happening. So it was quite surprising at the time for me, but definitely something that I was just insanely excited about. So did not hesitate.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Again.
Skype is being a dumpster camp today. I mean, full dumpster status. Well, hopefully, just full disclaimer, I rebuilt our whole show. So hopefully we don't get the crash that we experienced in the previous weeks, because that just sucks for me to edit afterwards more than anything else. It sucks for everyone, but it really sucks for editing because it takes hours and hours and hours. Use Discord. We'll try it out for next week for sure. But so yeah, I mean, obviously you've moved in and you've cast in that studio before, you know, with Crucible, and I think one other time you were out there, at least for BlizzCon and stuff. You know, now that that's your home, you have your own desk. Is it? I mean, is it everything you ever wished for? Is it the dream?
You know, like how do I put this? You know, so you think of something, you dream of something, and then you just kind of come up short, and you just kind of think, all right, like it's not gonna happen, and then it does happen, so it kind of makes it like more like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. My drive in to rehearsal was really cool, but like the day of the show, I was like, I'm actually doing this. Like, I'm actually driving here right now in Los Angeles area, which is insane enough. And driving there, it was just like, okay, this is actually happening. And walking into the studio, and it was kind of weird because you kind of know it's always been somebody else's like territory for a while. And you're just like, I guess this is me now. Like,
yeah,
okay. And so it was a bit surreal, but by day 2 and 3, it was just like the drive in, like each day, kind of felt like that same way. Like this is actually happening. I drive home, like I'm tired from standing. Like our first 2 days went like super long.
You don't have stools?
My feet hurt. Huh?
You don't have stools?
No.
The struggle.
No.
Damn.
But yeah, we even the drive home, it's like you're tired, your legs hurt, your feet hurt, and you're just like, it's worth it, man.
Get
and then
Dr. Scholl's life, man.
Yeah, you know, you just check your Twitter notifications and just look at everybody asking where Dread is.
Yeah, I mean, that'll pass. Obviously, people, I think one thing that HEC has gotten a lot of criticism for is just like the lack of promotion going into it. And I think it's kind of hard for Blizzard. I've talked a lot about this on my personal stream where there's a lot of competing with themselves, right? This past weekend, they had the Hearthstone tournament in Amsterdam, I think it was. And Owl just ramped up, so there's a lot of like self-competing. It's also true that HGC had to compete with LCS's return, a huge Smash tournament that I was very tuned into myself, Genesis 5. So it's definitely tough, but like there was a lot of people tuning into the stream that not only didn't know that you were replacing Dread for this phase, but also didn't even know it was coming back, right? So I think that was people are just like, okay, wait, HGC's back, but who's this guy? Where's my Dread? But I think you're nailing it, dude. I think it's for your opening week too, especially after just going through this terrible move, not even having a home at the time, living in like whatever kind of housing situation that you've told me about in private. It was just not the best, not the best. People stomping and waking you up at 5 a.m. It didn't show. The show was clean, dude. It really was so clean.
I wish people understood, like, I intentionally would go to bed early because I knew my neighbors were going to wake me up. 9 days in a row, they woke me up every morning. And I was just like, I need peak energy between 2 p.m. and potentially 8 to 8:30 p.m. And I'm being woken up at like 6:37 every morning. And I'm like, I don't want to be awake right now. Please let me sleep. But I got my place yesterday. I moved in. I slept 10 hours. I feel much better.
It's all uphill from here, or downhill, not uphill, downhill. We're going down. It's easier. Yeah, if people are saying in chat, people were like, wait, what? Webby's not on Fnatic? Yeah, exactly. And I am really glad to see that the HCC crew actively made like little graphics to like show the roster changes. And I think that was, I mean, they were very simple, but educational, right? That's what you need. You just need a simple, just like, boom, this is the update, and it really helped with a lot of people. Of course, the questions are still going to exist. People don't use Twitter. In Heroes community, you really need to use Twitter. I've been saying that for years now. It's good for the scene. It's really good for the industry. Twitter is a big metric for sponsors. The bigger the following the teams and the players have for Heroes, the more discussion there is overall. Sponsors really take to that kind of information. Twitter is a powerhouse. It's like, you guys wouldn't believe how impactful actually engaging with the teams and talking about the games and just joining the conversation on Twitter actually is for the scene. So PSA, if you don't have a Twitter account, that's your homework if you want to help Heroes of the Storm esports grow.
Just as an update, I actually hung out with Dredd my first week here. Hung out with him again yesterday just to confirm, to get rid of all the rumors. Dredd is indeed not pregnant. Not pregnant.
I think Gilly had to actually tweet stating that she's not pregnant too.
Yeah, somebody on Reddit started that thing, and then it turned to Dredd, and that was even better.
I think Dredd is pregnant though, just so don't lie.
Just because he's not showing yet doesn't mean you can confirm he's not pregnant, JHow. Don't be ridiculous.
Well, my bad.
Omega.
All right, on to real topics, perhaps.
Yeah, let's talk about the new tease. Now, Blizzard has now teased a new hero twice. Oh, I never even tweeted out our now live tweet. Whatever. Anyways, and the first thing they showed, I'm pulling it up here, was just like a green crystal or something, right? Like a hella zoomed in green looking crystal. First impressions, Dunkus, what'd you think?
My first impression was that it was neat, and it made me think of like demon hunters from Warcraft, and I was really happy when on Reddit, like, so I saw this tweet and I was like, oh, that's cool, and then I checked Reddit and somebody had already like theory crafted like, oh, it's got to be Maiev because like it looks exactly like the introductory cinematic, and here's the example, and I was like, dude, yes, like I was so excited because that's actually kind of what I thought first as well. Like I saw the kind of like green crystally pulse, and I'm like, that kind of looks like a like Fel stasis thing, you know? So I also think it's gonna be Maiev, and I'm like super excited for it because it should be a really cool character.
JHow, what do you think about this right here?
I'm the same way as Dunk. Like, people probably think, oh, JHow knows. I actually have no idea, right? So, like, when these types of teasers come up, like, I'm actively perusing Reddit to see who's, like, analyzing this. And admittedly, I don't know a lot about WoW lore. I played a ton of WoW, but I don't know about the lore. Like, I first look at that crystal, and the person I think in the background looks kind of like somebody in Karazim's stance, but I'm like, all right, it doesn't have the same rhythm. Like,
Oh, you're talking about the newer updated
the one that came out today.
Yeah, 5 hours
a
ago.
Couple hours ago.
There is a second tease, and it's the crystal, but there is a reflection of a silhouette of someone's stance. So you can see their rhythmic breathing. Somebody in my chat said it looks like a fighter stance. To me, I initially thought it looked kind of like Gul'dan. It looks like there could be a beard like right around here. It looks like there could be some kind of pauldrons up there. So theoretically, Gul'dan and Maiev did have some recent interactions, right? Did Gul'dan get put in a prison? I'm kind of out of date on the current WoW stuff, but I think there was something like that. But it definitely feels like the Warden, right? Everyone's agreeing that the Warden prison cell vibe from this is checking out.
I guess it could be like a random demon that's in a prison, right? Like, how good of a debate would it be if it's just like, here's the new hero, and it's just like a demon like breaks out of the prison, and you're like,
what if it's like
just like a Lunara-esque randomly named demon? It's like just a random Felguard or something. Like...
So imagine if this is some kind of Fel crystal that's a warlock, say it's Gul'dan, and it's like a Dreadlord or something. Right.
Yeah.
It could totally be a Dreadlord. Like, I don't know if it's going to be like Mal'Ganis or something. That doesn't look like Mal'Ganis, right? The character that we're seeing there is not necessarily the new character. That could totally be Gul'dan. They want to throw us off, right? Yeah. So
I like the 2-in-1 hero reveals, but it also, like, 2 to 3 weeks later, when I know that, like, the second hero I already know, like, I'm disappointed because I don't get another hero tease. So it's like, I hope it's just like one hero, then that way, you know, in another few weeks we get another hero, like, teased. Like, it creates a lot of fun, energy around it to do all the theory crafting and stuff. So
the Vault of the Wardens was raided by Cordana, a Fel Warden betrayer, and Gul'dan, and in effort to defeat the Legion, the demon hunters encased in green crystals were released by Maiev. Okay, so I remember that when you make a demon hunter, Maev's like, hey, you guys, come help us. We need help. We suck. Yeah. and the demon hunters come out, and they flap their little wings. They fly around in WoWland. So obviously, this isn't the last of it in Blizzard fashion with these kind of teasers. Usually there's 2 or 3, maybe more. So I would expect tomorrow we'll get a little, maybe we'll know
another
who it
teaser,
is, or something,
and like then maybe know who it is on Thursday.
Yeah, or one of the something like that. So
because usually new hero goes on PTR on Monday, right? And then they're on PTR for a week, and then they're live the week after. So this timeline matches up pretty well. If we get to know who this is on like Friday during the HTC broadcast, for example, maybe might be the reveal, and
that'd
then
be cool.
Monday PTR fits the timeline for new hero release, etc.
It does make sense for the reveal to be an HTC. That would be a smart move. They've done it in the past. Just a good way to drive, casual viewers to the tournament stream and maybe learn something.
I think it's a fantastic tie-in.
It's huge. I assume Owl will do the same thing. Oh man, I love calling it Owl. It tilts so many people. I'm gonna start a new podcast called The Hoot.
Ooh.
Covering Overwatch. But yeah, all right, so we have to talk about Maiev in anticipation that it's her. And if you've ever played a Warden in War 3, it's pretty much Zeratul with Fan of Knives, right?
That's the problem.
You got Blink, you got like a Singularity Spike-esque ability, and you have Fan of Knives. It's pretty much Zeratul. So there was somebody on Reddit that went ahead and mentioned a bunch of her more modern abilities in WoW. I think she has some kind of CC, some kind of prison ability. Do you guys have any expectations for what they could do with her if it is her?
I don't know. The problem is that you're right. Zeratul is literally basically a direct Warden kit.
Right.
Port. Like, Fan of Knives is essentially Cleave. Singularity Spike is essentially Shadow Strike. blink, like the Void Prison even overlaps like a lot on her the concept of like the Warden stasis as well. So that's like the only strike against that character, I think, actually, is that it's basically Zeratul. I don't know how you would put it in the game.
So
I honestly haven't had time to read anything.
So. You can remain silent.
No, I honestly 100%, 100,000%. I actually have no idea who the next hero is. So it's like I'm just listening, and I spent all day yesterday moving and all morning this morning sleeping. So, by the way, my place didn't have hot water last night, so taking care of life. Yeah. But I'm just listening to you guys. I was watching Dunk's stream last night while I was setting this up. Like, I had Dunk on my iPad while I was setting up my computer last night, just watching and listening. And I remember, like, there was, like, a reference, Dunk and somebody were theory crafting that it could be, like, another Illidan-style play. And so it's just fun to listen to.
Yeah. It's hard to say, like, what she would end up being, right? Like, would she be a bruiser? Would she be like almost like a Cassia, like a mid-range assassin, right? Because technically her weapon, she throws them, right?
Yeah, she can throw them, yeah.
So, like, obviously there's different opportunities to do things with that. I had thought of the idea of maybe her attack bounces, maybe her auto attacks bounce or something, because I can't think of anyone else that has an auto attack that bounces baseline. Naturally, like, Zul'jin has the axes that go in a nice wide arc, so they're not going to copy that. They could give it the chain lightning treatment almost with her Q to have like the Sentinel thing bounce. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to approach it, but yeah, she's not a demon hunter. She's a warden, so she hunts demon hunters.
They could also take inspiration from the Cordana Felsong fight in Legion, which you might have done if you did like dungeons a lot. It was the fight at the end of, like, you go through the dark place and there's like spiders and stuff, and like light is like a big deal and you have to bring the lights with you. And then, like, when you fight her, she makes like these walls of invisible things that you can only see if you're carrying the light. Did you do that fight? I don't know. You might not have done it. It was a really cool fight in the WoW Legion, but she was like basically like went invisible a lot and like created like creeping doom on the ground, it was called, where like there's zones you can't go to unless you bring the purifying light. I don't know. So if they bring Maiev, they could bring inspiration from that fight too, because it's kind of like a similar character archetype, just a corrupted one that they could relate to, because I just don't think there's room for a kit.
Sounds cool. Apparently there's a sound bite that Bakery wants us to listen to. Let's give it a listen.
Maiev. How is it even possible?
Maiev, how is it even possible? I don't know, Illidan. I don't know. Is he trying to tell me how to pronounce her name properly? Maiev? Is that what he's saying? Maiev. Okay. Well,
isn't that what we've been saying?
I thought so too, but I think I'm saying Maiev instead of Maiev. So Maiev. Maiev.
I'm glad it's there. If it is that hero, then at least I'll know how to say it.
That's true. We got it. More Illidan encounters. Yeah, dude, Illidan. We had a guy first pick Illidan today. We're like, please don't first pick Illidan. It's just the kind of hero that can just be dumped on by so many heroes that exist in the meta. And well, he got dumped on. We got dumped on. Saw into the future. Well, okay, so hopefully we'll learn more about that soon. Naturally, I think it's data mine from HOTS. That's on Wowhead, so I wouldn't imagine that's data mine from HOTS. I don't think Wowhead covers HOTS files, but I'll click that link again just to see if it does.
It says it's from
Black Temple. It said Black Temple. Yeah. Okay. So no, not the case as far as I know. Moving on to this week's patch notes. We got a patch today. I think there was a lot of discussion about, the most popular heroes that exist in the meta right now that we've seen in HGC. There's a clear, like, top list, Greymane, and then we got the Mata brothers, and, you got your tanks, like, that are just mainstays. A lot of people talking about it. Blizzard has given us a small patch with some nice updates. We'll just go down the line here, starting with Hanzo. So basically just damage reduction, right? And they nerfed his level, the new level 7 talent they gave him recently, the armor reduction with his autos and his Q. They brought that down. Instead of being 5 per hit, it's actually 4 armor per hit. So it still goes up to 20% armor reduction, which is still, obviously very meaningful, but it's not 25, and it takes a little bit longer to ramp up. On top of that, they just kind of toned his DPS down a little bit. Small tweaks, good tweaks in my opinion. Because ever since they gave him more mobility on the D, it just seems like Hanzo is a god.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was one of the most played heroes this last weekend, and in Hero League, pretty much permaban status. Like, probably needed these nerfs. I don't know if this really changes anything.
Just brings him down a
Honestly,
little bit, right?
yeah, it's just like a little bit of difference. Might be enough, might not. We'll have to see. Because I really think it was the addition of the utility on the trait that really brought him over the top, not like the tiny numbers buffs he got. So
Right.
I'm not sure if these numbers are enough to bring him back down,
Yeah, the hypermobility is always going to be a thing.
With Overwatch
any hero
heroes?
that has any hero that has mobility is always going to be good. It's something that I've been like stressing for a while, and then it's like become more and more, and then as more heroes come out, everyone that seems to have mobility seems to be pretty good. The armor reduction thing at 7, 20% just still feels like a lot. I equate this directly to the same way that we ran into the armor problem of like, hey, when Uther came out, right, he was just dishing out way too much armor, and he received like nerf after nerf after nerf. And it goes all the way back to the first broken talent with armor was the Ragnaros 13. And then they had to put like a built-in cooldown reduction. I think something along that line, putting like a timer on this, like for a maximum of like 5 seconds, 4 seconds, something along those lines, or having an internal cooldown reduction to have that. Because being able to apply that and then CCing a front line, I mean, it's a thing to, it's like, why are you focusing the tank? It's like, oh, hell yeah, we're focusing the tank. Like, it's a very different feeling, and I feel like this just makes it a little bit too easy. And it wasn't always the most picked in HGC this past week. I just feel that 20 is a high number, so if you're going to go 20, have some type of cooldown reduction, or at least bring it down to 15. Like, I still feel 20 is a bit overtuned.
This has got to be inactivatable. Your next on auto attacks reduce armor, right? They've got to make this inactivatable. I think by just making this a base auto attack upgrade flatline is too much, right? Think of how much more compelling it is if it's an actual new ability that you have to micromanage and use in a meaningful sense. It's almost like a hunter's mark, right? When you look at it this way, but to baseline just be a better hunter's mark that's always going to be available at all times is a little bit too much, I think.
That, and I think that you run into the issue of like, all right, what tanks do we have in the meta? Muradin, ETC, things like that all have mobility to get in and out. But when you start to get in onto a Diablo-style hero that his mobility is limited based on what's around him, things like that, Arthas, they become super terrifying to play into a Genji or a Hanzo.
Yeah.
And I think like that's one of the biggest things is that it's so limiting. Like it doesn't punish the ETC Muradin style as heavily. It obviously does. It neutralizes ETC's trait. Muradin obviously has a dwarf toss out. ETC has a slide out. So heroes like that, I think, don't feel it as much, but it's very oppressive to the rest of the hero pool.
Yeah.
Thus, Hanzo has the mobility. Oh, by the way, the mobility, and I'm not saying that's the sole reason on a warrior, right? But there's always going to be that factor, and then it's just increasingly more oppressive towards the warriors that don't have any type of mobility. You add a slow to them, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I went from 100 to 25% health. I guess we're completely resetting on this team fight, and it makes it very hard to do.
Yeah.
With one hero, like that's the difference. Like one hero.
I mean, you said it perfectly. It's just certain tanks just get dumped on by this. Like, you laugh at a Garrosh or like an Arthas. It's like, oh, you're gonna walk towards me? Have fun. Getting just chipped away and becoming hyper vulnerable. And Garrosh, obviously with his trait being armor, it's still meaningful, right? Just bring it. It's super meaningful. That's the only thing the hero really does. Like, you know, when he's almost dead, is stay alive by having insane armor. Well, Hanzo laughs at you. Are you guys surprised they didn't make any changes to his Merc build? Like, the Merc build is like, I mean, it's so strong. Like, his ability to get a boss or anything, it's so strong. And did we see it? I don't know if we saw it too much in HGC, but
we saw it.
We saw it, yeah.
Yeah, but
it's like, I'm honestly, I am surprised that they're okay with how fast he takes mercs. Like, it seems there are heroes that take mercs fast and kill, for example, BOE boss fast, but I just think he's on another level. Like, yeah, it's just not really comparable, I don't think. Like, on Sky Temple, he kills the boss in like 10 seconds or something absurd. It's ridiculous.
Disgusting. Yeah.
They narrowed the shots, right? So they
so it's better.
Yeah, so it's better. Like, normally before, like, you'd miss one or two of those, but like it was an inherent buff towards big hitbox styles. One of those being the boss. So it increased the race like exponentially in that regard. So I think that was a buff, and then it's sitting at such a high number already that I don't know what the answer would be there. Like 150%. Like, if you start taking that down, then, you know, how, I'm sure they've got the numbers, like how effective is this versus, say, something like explosive arrows, things like that. Like, all right, is W just way too strong? Should it be comparable to explosive arrows, things like that?
Yeah, no, it's maybe eventually we'll see them revisit that, but definitely surprised to see that left alone in this patch. Did see some build diversity for Hanzo, though. You know, we in Europe, you know, definitely saw a good number of games with the more the explosive shot build for the quick lane clear. So at least in terms of like hero design, he's seeing variety in play, which is a good thing in builds. It's always nice to see a newer hero approached in different manners, especially in different regions. But yeah, Hanzo, some nerfs, still a god. Wouldn't count him out. Valeera has she got nerfed recently when she you know, there was a small stint where she got the buffs when the stealth reworks came out. She became fairly popular in the Hero League meta, at least. And she then got nerfed a little bit. You know, it was like a 0.25 reduction, but they also nerfed her slow. They nerfed a few different elements of her, and she's since fallen off at least a lot in, from my games, from my experience. Like, have you still been seeing her recently, or is she?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay.
100% dead hero meme.
Yeah. Dead meme. Dead hero.
Yeah.
How do you feel about these changes that she received today?
Well, I thought it was interesting. They buffed all talents that were completely unpickable, except combat readiness was actually pickable. But all the other talents they buffed basically were like completely unpickable talents, which I guess is okay. But if this makes her viable, it'll just make her viable with like one particular build again. It won't like give her any diversity. Like, I'm not going to be the one who experiments with this because personally I don't think it's enough, but someone will probably experiment, and if she's viable, it's going to be like one particular build yet again, and she'll just get nerfed again. So to me, this isn't that exciting because I just don't expect anything to come from it. Like, I don't know, character's just not really able to be viable, I think.
It definitely feels like between the physical armor and then the extra blind duration at 13, I feel like maybe she was getting poked down pretty heavily and having very few retreat points. Because if you look at one of her heroics, it gives her an insane amount of spell armor. So now you kind of have this blend, I guess, and it feels like they're trying to make sure that she's at least somewhat balanced in how she can mitigate the damage to sustain in a fight. But I still think that kit-wise, like, it's going to feel mostly the same in terms of, like, unless something's broken or unless it's like a very specific, I guess, targeted build that you can use against somebody, like, I don't know if it has like everyday use. I feel like it's still a situational hero, and honestly I think I'm okay with that. Like, Valeera, when she is in the meta, is ridiculous to say the least. And so it's like one of those heroes. It's like, how do you balance this hero? Like, should it be a situational hero? If we make her an every game hero, like, she's probably broken. And just given the way her kit inherently works, and if you can take away some of that, then you send her down a very narrow path. And if you can balance around that, you send her down very specific paths. And And I'm actually okay with that with this style of hero.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a little weird, like, if you look at where the power level is given to heroes like Hanzo, like how potent their mercenary clear is and stuff like that, that actually makes them a stronger hero than Valeera. But because Valeera is like so much more frustrating to play against for whatever reason for most people, like she can never actually be powerful all around, you know, unlike something like a Hanzo or a Greymane, you know.
Yeah, it's just, you know, like you said, you can immediately shut down part of her kit, right? You see the stealth coming. There's so many heroes that are just like, I've revealed you. Good luck with half your kit. Like, you don't get to use it now. Moonfire, whatever. Like, you know, and there was one Valeera in our games today, and it was exactly that. I was on Diablo. I'm just like, I'm going to hit W. My flames are going to tickle your little stealthy butt, and you're going to leave my Stukov alone. And, you know, it really does help deal with that. And that's just, you know, that's the rogue life, right? Rogue life is hard life. You got to sneak, and if you can't sneak, then you lose. The end. I think this is, I'm glad they're trying to, like, at least buff her other talents. I think it's weird that they nerfed some of her talents that I don't know if they really needed it, right? I read this earlier during the stream. What did they nerf? Like Mutilate got buffed. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
No, yeah, I don't think she got any nerfs.
Yeah,
she
okay.
just got all buffs to unused talents.
Okay. But yeah, that's good. That's a good approach. I think what I'm thinking of is a different hero. So we'll continue on. Sergeant Hammer, my favorite hero, my favorite person to ever see in my Hero League games when they press that siege button and they wait for that Gazelle bomb to tick down 1, 2, 3, boom, then yell at their team when no one saved them from the bomb. I love Sergeant Hammer. Fuck Sergeant Hammer players. She got buffed. And I hate her, so that's my Jake rant.
No, she did not get buffed.
Oh, she got pooped on. Good.
She got nerfed. I mean,
dude, I didn't even read this because I hate Hammer so much.
Like, can you even believe that she got nerfed? Like, this is mind-blowing to me that this hero is getting a nerf.
To me, it feels targeted at, and this is no offense to anybody, I feel like it's targeted towards maybe lower level players. Like,
maybe?
Not understanding how to get under a level 7 umbrella of Sergeant Hammer's auto attacks, and then not knowing how to like, you can coordinate and kill a Sergeant Hammer, right? That's just the way she works.
Not if she just stays siege.
I'm just gonna say, like, the rework, Sergeant Hammer, like, was sneaky strong pre-rework. Like, her auto attacks
she was.
were insane.
Maelstrom shells.
Now it's just, she feels more like the way a sieging tank should in terms of how you're supposed to play her. But I think that, like, it was just really, really bad for people not understanding, like, look, if you just coordinate, like, this hero's not that great. And I think it's just super targeted at people that don't necessarily know how to deal with it as effectively, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's sad though. Like, I used to say like Siege would be a cool trait and then give her a third ability. And I thought that would make Hammer really interesting, but the rework did kind of dump on her. Like, I used to play Hammer, you know, for fun once in a while, but I do not touch her since the rework. She is just like, I don't know. There's something about it. The mine build is funny at 20. When you go full mine build and you get level 20, it is hilarious getting that minus armor and that, you know, you can just melt someone, but beyond that,
the multiple explosions on it.
Oh yeah, so the mine's just
come and get me.
Wait, you can get a level 20 talent to minus armor on Sergeant Hammer, or you can get a level 7 talent to minus armor on your auto attacks on Hanzo.
Oh man, that feels gross when you put it that way. Sylvanas, who has been, you know, used a lot in Hero League, common ban on some of the maps, especially when there's an objective that pushes to try to basically cheese to the keep. Will say that she hasn't felt as oppressive in my games ever since they buffed the tower damage on the forts and the keeps. She's still very impactful in that regard, or can be, right? And they actually, you know, they just nerfed her her one build that is very common level 4 talent on her W is the only thing that really gives her any actual real contribution to a team fight, because when you're able to spam the W a few times in a fight, especially with the armor reduction at 16, it gives Sylvanas some pretty good merit. Again, level 16 armor reduction, not level 7 auto attack, and they have nerfed that both baseline and in the actual cooldown reduction level 4 Lost Soul.
That's pretty gnarly.
It is. And I did see a post somewhere saying that the cooldown actually hasn't changed in game. So this is like someone was playing and they're like, it's actually still, 10 seconds, not 11. I'm actually going to log in and try her really quick just to confirm or deny that. But that's their intent regardless. But
yeah,
how ripperoni is this for her in terms of just like where she stood versus now? Does it change much?
I don't get these changes. I'm pretty sure basically every human being who plays Heroes of the Storm agrees that Sylvanas trait is a problem. Like,
nope.
It's ridiculous. Did
you say nope?
Yeah, and I these changes, like
these
changes make her more narrow in that the only thing she does is her trait. Like, it's the total opposite direction, I think, of where you should go, where like her trait should be an addition to what the character does, but like not the only thing the whole character does.
Okay, this is something I've said for a very long time, and I'll just pose the question. Would you be okay if the trait was simply an attack speed reduction on structures? Like,
hell yeah, that's way better than shutting it off.
Still locks down minions, still lockdowns minions. That's debatable, but just give like, all right, it's a 1 per second, now it's a half per second, so it's still there. You can still take damage, but it's obviously going to have a negative. And I'm sure they've experimented with this at some point, but to completely change Sylvanas' trait to not do that after 3 years of her in the game, like, I'd be really sad.
No, I mean, I can totally agree that like that is the one thing she contributes, and that it does need to be a thing, right? She needs to be able to siege in a meaningful way of one way or another. I think the attack speed reduction on forts is super cool, right? You show that same cold dark effect and the structures fire at half rate or something. That's way less oppressive than, okay, well, guess what? We've got a massive Zerg push and you don't have enough lane clear, so you lose the game because we have Sylvanas. The game just ends now, bye. And that totally happens to people, right? And that, like, to be able to, I mean, I was on Sylv, we were getting dumpstered. We happened to get 3 kills, picked up a boss, walked to the core, called it a day, man. Like, no other hero lets you get out of jail for free like that, like, but Sylvanas does. And her team fight contribution was nerfed, right? That's what we were saying. Like, they basically nerfed her W build, which is it's really good talent overall, but like, I don't know. It seems like a pretty boring change to her. It's just like, okay, we're gonna nerf her in like her team fight. She's really good there. We think that her constant W spam is just too much. No, we're gonna slow that down. Like, I
will say, this reminds me like 2 years ago, Nazebo, and it was like, I think it was like April 2 years ago. They like made some changes, or no, that's when we started talking about it. His damage numbers would always look good, except it was not effective in team fights, right? Like, he's like, oh, he could sneak in some damage, but he could never like do anything.
Zebo?
And that's kind of how I feel here.
You talking about Zebo?
Like 2 years ago, Nazebo could like have good numbers, but it was never really like, oh man, he really contributed to that team fight.
He's
like,
the guy that's like in the chat afterwards, like, I carried you guys.
Yeah.
Look at all the damage I did, my spiders.
You can do the same thing with the W at 4, and I'm again, like, I'm okay with this. I would caution people to, and this is something that I've experimented with quite a bit, right? Like, down a little bit of test, down a little bit of numbers. Like, the extra quiver at 4 is okay. Post 13, Sylvanas has surprisingly good burst damage, right? As long as you can isolate a hero, since it prioritizes closest. And that's why I'm actually okay with the health nerf. There's been a lot of times you get onto a Sylvanas post 13, you're like, I should be able to 1v1 the specialist. And then she kills you, and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense, right? And so, like, I'm okay with, like, the changes. I just think that, until that inevitable rework comes, I still think that outside of her kit doing what it does to structures, that I think she's just fine talent-wise. Like, I don't think there's anything that makes me say this hero really needs to change. There's viable talents at 1. There's now what should be 2 viable talents at 4. There's only 1 at 7 in possession, and 13 and beyond.
Did you just say possession is the viable talent at 7, or it's not viable?
No, it is actually viable.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, in the
I mean,
2.
think about it this way.
2.0.
Hold on. JHow's gonna like try to pretend like this is a reasonable explanation. Think about it this way. Your hero already does nothing, Jake. So unless your team wins you the team fight anyway, your hero doesn't matter. So you might as well just get better at pushing when you do win the team fight randomly from an idiot walking into your team for free.
Either way, so
I don't play much.
Is she crazy enough that we really need to scream rework? Right, this subtle change takes it away from Sylv padding stats, and it keeps her from like really trying to 1v1 heroes. Maybe she shouldn't with a small health nerf. But do we need to say Sylvanas really needs the change outside of the trait? And is it really that bad?
No, I don't think she's. I don't think she's in a terrible situation or anything. I'm surprised to hear you say possession is the one trait, just because like.
Clearly, I'm joking.
Okay.
Just so you know, like I actually do truly believe, in certain circumstances, possession is okay.
Sure, if they have no clear and you want to punish that or something, yeah, maybe. But
no. Depending on enemy team composition, things like that, forcing rotations can sometimes win you.
And minions are stronger
advantage.
now.
Yeah, and without the auxiliary tower, like the side tower, like numbers do matter.
No, I mean possession used to be a heroic ability. But
would it be an interesting trait for Sylv if her trait made buildings not able to attack heroes?
But but okay, so they would no longer they could still kill minions, but not prioritize heroes.
Well, that fixes like what I think the fundamental problem with Sylv is that like she just makes map objectives like absurd, and like I think that's where like most people's problem with Sylv is, and thinking about it, that's where my problem with Sylv is. But I don't actually have a problem with her as a big function of what her character does, enabling dives or like allowing you to Zerg a wall down or something.
That's cool.
Like that's actually a cool aspect.
It's just like with the objective, the amount of power that it adds is like it's bar
that's the only part that's
nothing
actually
else comes
weird.
Close, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of why it's awkward, I think.
Yeah, Bakery actually did a couple tweets on it.
Couple
polls on his Twitter that are kind of interesting.
Yeah. So,
and by interesting, I mean disgusting when you look at this one.
Filthy.
But this is, I think this is actually the problem with Sylvanas, though, is like, the problem is people probably don't even identify those aspects of Sylvanas's kit as things she actually has, because all of her power is in disabling structures. Like, everyone thinks they like Sylvanas because of disabling structures, but actually the character just had to have all of her other power removed to make room for this one aspect of her. So everything else is like so toned down that it's like not interesting anymore, in my opinion. Like back in the day when Sylv used to be really good, like way back in the day when she was actually just busted, like you were actually really powerful. Like Wailing Arrow did way more damage. You were basically like a burst hero with a lot of mobility, and you could make sick plays on Sylv. Like I remember back in the day, like some of fans' Sylv plays were like insane with Windrunner, and like now you don't. I don't know. Sylv just doesn't really do anything except disable structures. I feel like because everything else had to get nerfed.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what she is. She's a push hero. She can merc with Barb Shot fairly effectively. Level 1, it's not as effective as like a Greyman or something, of course, but it's pretty quick at 7. I think she's in a interesting spot, but she is on some maps and Hero League for sure just a first ban, because it's like, well, we don't want to deal with that cheese. It honestly feels like cheese. It's like, okay, if they race the Punisher, they get Sylvanas. It's a 2-lane map. Sylvanas just has this crazy value where we put a solo laner on top. They push with Sylvanas, and it just feels really oppressive. And I don't love it. I love how we got this huge Sylvanas tangent, mainly because JHow's here. Oh,
look, I'm just sitting here thinking like, all right, do I keep going on or do we move to the next one? I will just say that having the level 1 where you fire the Q when a minion dies, there's a little bit of diminishing returns post level 7. If there's not a lot of mercs and monsters on the map, possession actually makes sense because you're just fast clearing at that point minions, and then instead of just taking that, controlling rotations, you're just clearing and probably doing a marginal damage. You're probably standing there attacking a gate too long for the enemy team to come kill you. That's how most Sylvanas is played. I'm just going to say there is a spot for that, but just going to kind of finish my point, Dunk, I think, actually probably had one of the better suggestions so far, is if you attack said structure and it just takes away like targeting heroes, that's not too shabby.
No. I mean, it gives you dive, but that's something they would never do, I think, because it's not intuitive compared to the rest of the game design, and I don't know if that would ever be a thing. But who knows? Who knows? That's not a change that we saw with Sylvanas. They just nerfed her W build and her HP a little bit, but good discussion on where she stands because she is quite relevant in the Hero League scene, not as much in the pro scene. Zool, these are in orange text. Grim Scythe. So this is added. This is something that wasn't here earlier when I looked at this. The cooldown per enemy hit increased from 0.75 to 1 second at level 4. Jailer's bonus attack and movement speed reduced from 50 to 40%. So they're trying to just get some more build diversity out of Zool at level 4, and then level 7, Harvest Vitality, a health increase from 60 to 70%. Decent buffs, I'd say.
It's strictly PvP focused. I mean, I'm okay with that. The cooldown reduction on Q build, I mean, whether you go that or not, I mean, especially like post 13, you can split. The Harvest Vitality gives him some sustainability without making him broken. I mean, obviously there was like when he first came out, super fast auto attacks plus the big heal were a bit crazy, but I feel like this at least shifts him in the right direction. Does this make him HGC worthy? Probably not.
No, I think he's reasonable in Hero League though.
Yeah.
He's kind of like an off-tank bruiser. I think when people draft him as an assassin, if you're like running double tank plus Zool, it can be pretty weird in a lot of compositions.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, even just today, we had that exact thing, and they had Emerald Wind, right? It's just like we try to kill. It's like Varian, Stitches, Zool. What is our team gonna do, right? Like, so you got to kind of treat him as like almost like a Sonya in a situation where he can exist in that way, but at the same time. Do you think he has to be a solo lane, or do you think there's a lot of value in having him in the 4 and rotate? Do you think there's more value in the 4-man rotation or 3-man rotation, just because you can get the constant minions rising up for the additional push? Is that relevant with the ammunition gone, or is that far less relevant?
It's definitely less relevant with ammunition gone, and I also think it puts awkward strain on your team comp, like you were talking about, because usually you want your offlaner to be a melee too. And you need your main tank in your 4-man rotation probably, so then you're stuck with like, who's our offlaner? And unless you have enough damage to compensate by having like a Malthael in your offlane, like you're probably better off not having Zool like in your 4-man. Just accept that he's a bad solo laner and wait until the objective comes up so you can actually soak 2 lanes with him and your team contest the objective or whatever like you're supposed to.
There is something to be said for point and click lockdowns pre-7, especially now with the almost no healer having cleanse. It makes easy setups. Like if you have an early game blow up composition like a Greymane, like a Kael'thas, maybe a Chromie, but in terms of in general, I mean, I think it'd have to be a pretty specific scenario and a perfectly well executed thing, because if you don't get early game value from that 4-man rotation, you're only crippling yourself and you're keeping the enemy in the game, and your early game power, if you run it that way, is significantly higher. And if you don't get those 3 to 4 kills in the first like 4 to 5 levels, then it's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
Someone asks, it's Moonstar7420. We don't always take questions right away, but I like this. What about team comps with Kerrigan and roaming? Is it similar in that sense? I mean, Zool with the Bone Prison is kind of similar, but you have to look at it as an ability that takes time to charge. Your enemy team then has time to react to it, whereas Kerrigan is more of like a snap, like surprise mother, boom, like kill, right? Zul's a little bit more about the trait value, right? You're getting this oppressive like rise of the minions as you're roaming through. So it's a little bit more indirect in terms of the way the value exists, because it creates opportunities where your team has the stronger lane presence, largely from those extra skeletons, whereas Kerrigan is more for the pick. Zul, I've seen countless times people pick Zul thinking they're going to follow up on the hook. It's like, all right, the hook's in and the target's over here. Now they're rooted, but their team's saving them. It doesn't really work out that well. You'd be way better off with the Kael'thas with the gravity lapse or even a polymorph or something to follow that up than the Bone Prison. It's a very different kind of CC. In a lot of ways, the CC is forcing your opponent to retreat rather than a combo CC the way Bone Prison is designed. It would be interesting to see them give him talents around his E to maybe change the interactions, but I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Kerrigan also does a ton more damage in her combo.
Oh god, yeah, not even close. Soul's just kind of like,
Zul needs
collecting some wheat today, guys. Like, yeah, it's he harvests soul and he harvests grain, but that's about it. Moving down the line, we've got Brightwing getting some more HP. I think they're just saying, hey, look, we see you phase shifting into those fights. We're gonna let you live a little bit more. Good luck. And then Tyrande got a little bit more DPS. The Jake Tyrande, the Jake Tyrande tangent, give her some additional attack range, then maybe she'll be interesting. She's too reliant on auto attacks as it is for her Q. Give her one more range, so she has some kind of interesting harass and still combo potential, not attack damage. I don't think that's really gonna. I mean, I'm glad they're giving her DPS. But Tyrande's pretty booty right now.
She's got to at least contribute. Again, this is like we saw Tyrande last year in HGC, like especially when the 13 talent was still crazy, and she became like, all right, this is really bad for the games, and it's just like, how do we do that? So it's like you need to, if you're going to take away from one part, you have to invest in another if you want them to be viable. Do I think this is significant in any form or fashion? No. But again, like, you have to be careful, I guess, like, where you buff that. Because it's not that the Owl build is bad. And in certain situations, the Lunar Flare build is okay if you have the right follow-up. But I don't think that we need to push her too hard because she has the heal, the spell armor at 4, and then the vision that she gets, interrupts that she gives, stun that she gives, vulnerability that she gives.
She's got awesome utility, right?
If we look at her kit, there's a lot there, but if you make one of those things broken, the rest of them look even better, and that's the thing with Tyrande.
No, I definitely agree. She's the kind of hero where once upon a time, we had a stun meta where it was all about rotations. Dunk remembers it fondly because that's when he was winning tournaments and stuff. And they, Rexar and Tyrande were a big part of that. You had the extra stun from the Misha, you had the Lunar Flare, and you had the blow up with the Hunter's Mark. Since then, Tyrande has been reworked, and I think she is significantly worse now than she used to be, actually. Largely because back then your Owl would give cooldown reduction on all your basic abilities. You could land 2 E's in a fight, and that was super impactful, and you felt like a god when doing it, right? It wasn't about the Owl build. The Owls, successfully landing the Owl on multiple targets in a team fight close range wasn't about damage. It was about the functionality and the utility. And I think she is just way too linear now. Like, it's like, okay, I need to hit more auto attacks to be able to heal. It's boring. It's not exciting. It's not fun. Tyrande is my most played hero, and I do not play her anymore. So I don't know. It's just like one of those. I get to be one of those passionate guys. Like, they reworked and messed up my hero, right? For the first time, because this is the first time. But I gotta say this. Just interrupt. I'm on the Malf hype train now. By the way, I wasn't last week, but nice. I'm on the Malf hype train now. I like the new Malf a lot.
Oh. I'm super disappointed. I just realized in this patch there's no update to the indicators for Mouth's regrowth.
Give it time. Give it time. I think the fact that that's a different department, that's not just number tweaking. It's like it's an art team that needs to make a visual indicator or something. I'm sure it's on their to-do list. I think you can't expect that one weekend kind of deal. So But
while you
Jake, I
guys
can
hit-
expect anything,
damn, son.
whether I get it.
Yeah, you're right.
While you guys hit the next hero, I desperately need my second cup of coffee. I'll BRB.
You get that cup of Joe, and we'll scroll down the list here. Or I can run ads. Could I be that guy? We get esports dollars, make you guys watch them commercials. We're gonna do it. We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna get some more water, and we'll be right back to continue the patch notes and talk about HCC 2018. Stay tuned, guys. Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of episode 168, Town Hall Heroes, that Winston Cup. Oh, Dunk Train, that is a nice cup. He agrees.
Yes, it is.
He agrees. He agrees. So we were going through the patch notes here for Heroes of the Storm. I glanced at Twitter while we were on break, and I saw a little bit of a breaking news announcement. It looks like Open Division, which starts next week, by the way, and you can sign up at heroeshype.com. Will be played on the live servers with Blaze enabled. So it's going to be played with all the new content, the TR rework, the Malfurion rework, and Blaze all live on the live server. And that's Monday and Tuesday for North America and Europe. Again, heroeshype.com if you would like to sign up to be part of that. We'll talk more about that in our HGC segment. I just wanted to make sure to talk about that because I just saw the tweet. Sweet. So back into the patch notes. Did I close them? Am I that much of a dingus? No, I didn't. I thought I full dingus. Blaze, speaking of Blaze, has received some changes here in the balance patch where Bunker has more HP. Combustion now is a 0.5 second window where you cannot actually cancel the activation. So if you're mashing R when you're trying to break out of that stun, you can't accidentally cast it and cancel it. I have absolutely done that and been really confused and mad about it. But so that is good. And then how do you guys feel about just that change? And you know, last week one thing we talked about JHow was actually the lack of unstoppable on his R. I thought that would be a pretty nice change for. He's already super slow. Like, I don't think giving him unstoppable would be like a game breaking thing for him, and like it's his heroic ability, right? Compared to a lot of the other heroics, I don't think it feels as scary as so many of them, right?
For something with 80 seconds, I think it's definitely worth considering.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're slowing them down, and they're slowing you down, and they're slowed by 60%, then technically most abilities are less than that, so you should still be able to run them down. I'm totally trolling. You can be stunned, you can be rooted, you can do a lot of things. The thing is that if you become unstoppable, like it's weird. So like you have Lily's jugs. Where do you want that? If that's unstoppable, or if she's unstoppable during that, then her healing value all of a sudden goes up. Not saying that Lily would be meta if not, but you can stun her out of jugs.
These are very different roles, though. This is your frontline tank, initiator, like.
But 60% slow, assuming that you have a slow, you're looking for your team to follow up on that. If you are channeling this for an extended period of time, that opens the window for your team, and it makes it so that this becomes strong and even stronger. We're talking about, let's see, channel for up to 2.6 seconds. We're talking about a 60% slow. That's a pretty significant slow in Heroes. Like, you don't get slows like that. Like, obviously, and again, we're talking about a heroic, right? Rhaegar has an 80% slow or whatever it is at level 16, but it's for 1 second. A 60% slow for like up to 3 seconds almost, like that is a long period of time. It creates like the margin for error to be much greater for your team. Like, oh no, like we missed this in the first second. We still missed this in the second second, but we still have a half second to make sure that we don't mess this up. And when you start to look at the margin for error of what that would effectively create, it opens that wide open for your team to just capitalize on it. The same way that we looked at the Cocoon, right? The Cocoon was on such a short cooldown is that, look, like my people are like in a full other lane and they're able to get there in time. Obviously, Cocoon has a much longer channel, but it created opportunities that were just way too strong in the sense that it's like, all right, we have a huge window and the margin for error to mess that up was really small. And I think when you make it unstoppable and you have a slow that period of time, not just one slow, but potentially multiple slows on something like that, and you can slow an entire area for almost 3 seconds, that margin for error of your team is much larger, and I think that is potentially the reason why that would be too strong. So you would have to give up something. Is it the slow amount? Is it the duration? You could trade off but is it more effective in what you want to do?
Good points, honestly. I mean, I think
you're already slowed down while you're there, so
Right,
you're just
by 50%.
marginally slower, right? But
right. It's
they're
just,
marginally slower.
you know, Hammer of Justice, you know, any kind of stun, and you're done. Like that's the end of your heroic. It's over. And I think, you know, you want this commanding presence. I just feel like Blaze has terrible initiation, right? His charge. You compare it to ETC, it's laughable. It's got wind up. It doesn't go through targets. It can be body blocked by one person to deny reaching the back line. It's just nowhere near as flexible. And it's, you know, sure, it has a nice talent at 16 where you can reduce cooldown and maybe get multiple stuns if you have a CC to set it up. Like if they're popping out of a maw and you charge as Blaze, it feels amazing, right? You hit like all 4 or 5 of them, whatever. It feels awesome. But fundamentally, like, his initiation is pretty poor. Just throwing down oil and slowing them isn't really enough. But I was curious how you thought about how you felt about combustion, because I you know, this is a good change for sure. It's a nice change to it. The bunker getting more HP is definitely good because I felt it was a little bit weak, and I think bunker is a pretty interesting talent overall. More for utility, not for actually sitting there and shooting the flame cannon. By the way, the flame cannon's kind of garbo. It's funny. It feels like a little party game. I feel like I'm playing Mario Party on N64 with my friends, going like every 2 seconds.
You have a mini sanctification in fortified bunker.
Exactly, right? It's a mini sanctification
with a shield.
It removes poisons, it removes chrono loop, it removes all that kind of, you know, negative stasis effects or whatever, and it's cool. But the other changes to Blaze we have here, the cooldown reduction has been increased from 1.5 to 2 seconds on feeding the flame on his Q. Just nice little change, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I think at 4, almost everyone is taking slow while burning.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard for the other talents on that tier to compete.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah, dispersal, increase oil spill area and slow.
So again, I think the part of, like, I don't know, like, I haven't seen scrims with Blaze involved, and that's basically because I've been busy, and then when I was watching scrims, they were preparing on the previous patch. So anything I say is just purely speculation. And I look at the way Blaze is set up, and there's a lot of people that would say maybe Blaze is an offlaner. He has decent enough wave clear that he could go. Do you want to have a double tank setup of an ETC Blaze because he can play bruiser role with better initiation? Like, that is insane to think about, and the max potential of what he could bring. I'm actually really okay with his kit and the way he's built. The problem that I've had is that right as Blaze came out, I played PTR, and then I had to turn my computer off, and I just got it yesterday as I've been moving. So my experiences are strictly based on what I've thought about with Blaze, what I've seen other people do with Blaze on stream and things like that. So take my opinion, I guess, a little bit lighter, but
yeah,
the fact that he has the sustain and wave clear in a lane does make it hard to think about. We're in a double tank meta.
Yeah,
like, how strong could he potentially be if we
for the initiate?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I mean, I definitely think he's pretty close to viable, if not viable. Like,
I agree. He's good anti-dive though. He feels really bad if you're trying to go against like a multiple ranged assassin kind of team, and you pick him. He's not going to necessarily offer the most in the world, although there are some talents that got some buffs in this patch that will help with some of that, I think.
Absolutely.
Because he's got a cool kit. So we'll continue down the line here a little bit. The Incinerator Gauntlets, bonus damage, again, just buffing to level 7. And I mean, level 7, I've pretty much always played Grill and Kill personally because it just seems like the most valuable talent. You get additional 2 seconds on your oil spill. That's 2 seconds of additional healing, right? In a lot of situations, that's not only damage. Maybe you're fighting on Infernal Shrines. You want more damage on for the minions, but healing is a big deal for him to be able to get all the additional sustain. They nerfed that the bonus damage on Grilling Kill in this patch, which is like totally fine, I think, to nerf the damage. But I don't think it really changes much, right? Because you're getting 2 more seconds.
Yeah.
Crossfire got some love, and they also gave some love to the Incinerator Gauntlets.
I think Incinerator Gauntlets were really bad before. I haven't played with the buffed ones to see if they feel reasonable or not. My suspicion is the extra damage is not enough still to put them to pick a wall in this tier. Like you said, like if you want to play more self-heal, Grilling Kill is actually really valuable for the duration of healing, and Crossfire's got surprisingly good burst elements when you do actually land a stun. I don't think Incinerator Gauntlets are quite good enough yet. But I'm willing to believe that they could be.
Well, the thing about the talent for me is like, unless you go for the adhesive petroleum, you don't necessarily always want to light your oil on fire.
You lose control. You lose control of your own kit. Yeah,
that's what I don't like. So like almost like if it'd almost be nice to be able to turn that part of it off, right? To always have the PvE mechanic, but like to accidentally light your oil on fire when that slow was actually what you needed. I've literally never used this talent. I think I might have tried it in try mode, just be like, okay, let's see how this feels. But I would still never pick it personally, just because of that one variable.
Yeah, I almost feel like it needs to be on a different tier from Crossfire, where like Crossfire incentivizes you to use your Q on cooldown for damage, and then this could be your way of lighting oil spills if they were on different tiers. But the fact that they're on different tiers, like, it doesn't really help solve that theoretical problem.
Crossfire is kind of an interesting talent because admittedly I don't think it's that easy to hit both flames on smaller targets. Yeah, if it's like an Asmodan or like whatever, then it's easy, right? But you know, to get that perfect shot on like a Li Ming or something, you know, that girl's thin, man. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like a talent that'd be hard to get consistent value out of, unless you're consistently playing against, you know, the double warrior does make more of a case for it because you are going to be doing that much more bruiser DPS, and since we are seeing a lot of double warriors tend to have a bigger model, so there's definitely some merit to it. I'll definitely try it out more this coming week. But down to level 13, Suppressive Fire. I love this talent. I think like just in terms of tank design, you know, a spell power mitigation option is really nice. I actually like his level 13 talent design quite a bit because he's got the nano machine coating, which is the oil spell, and ignited oil spells have their attack speed reduced by 40%. But the in the previous patch, this did not work on a ignited oil spill, which was very counterintuitive, right? It had to be just an oil spill with no flames on it, and that it's super counterintuitive to him because he always wants to be standing in the flames. And now you have that double negative effect to maybe the enemy warrior, where you're slowing down their auto attack speed or whatever. And there's many heroes where this is going to be good against, but I think this change to make it that level 13 talent nano machine coating also apply to while it's on fire is a huge buff to that talent.
Yeah, agreed.
100%.
100.
Let's fire.
And then Juggernaut plating, shield bonus increase from 100 to 125 of damage reduced at level 16. Cool.
I don't think that really does anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the cooldown reduction is probably better, or the other talent if you're going for a trait build. Either way, unless they're like pure stacking spell damage, the triple mage special, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. Thermal protection just seems hard to pass up.
The OP comp.
Triple mage?
The OP comp, yeah.
Kalthazar, Jaina. If you're not running that, there's a problem.
A trio of ice and fire, perhaps?
Yes. You know what? Actually, I take that back. Kalthas, Jaina, Gul'dan. We're covering all the bases now. Hellfire, but kind of poison at the same time.
You disgust me.
Eruption. Or Kerrigan, because you can envenom.
The one remaining in Venom in the game. Kerrigan.
I hope it never goes away either. I hope it never goes away.
I think they should just give all the OG abilities to Kerrigan. Give her sprint. Give her...
She has something.
Give her sprint. What? Give her redemption.
What's it called? Queen's Rush or something?
It's called Queen's Rush.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
bad.
she has Queen's Rush.
Yeah.
Did you say it's so good?
No, it's so bad.
Okay, yeah, then you're wrong.
Ooh.
Sonya, very prominent solo laner, lost a little bit of auto attack damage. They also nerfed Poison Spear again. This recently got a nerf. They brought the damage down a little bit more because it's still like the go-to level 7 talent. And then Nerves of Steel at level 16 actually received a sizable nerf as well. The cooldown's down to 1 minute, but the actual duration is down to 3 seconds, so you have to use it in a snap moment. The leniency is not there anymore for just saying, okay, I'm going to dive and randomly cast Nerves of Steel. And the maximum HP is down to 25% instead of 30. So these don't kill Sonya by any means. She's still going to be a very good solo laner, but they're trying to level her out, I think.
I think this is bad for Sonya. Like, I think the Nerves of Steel nerf is actually really big. It's, I think it's actually a big difference.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, I've always felt that Sonya was an early game hero anyways, and this is going to hurt her late game even more. But do you think she's just below Dahaka 100% now, or what?
Like, for competitive, wasn't Dahaka generally higher prioritized for the most part already? So these are mainly, these are mainly Hero League targeted stuff, and globals are kind of awkward in Hero League sometimes. But I definitely think Sonya is like much closer to reasonable now to deal with, whereas before I think she was one of the best picks always.
I agree a lot. I mean, Ancient Spear, this is the second nerf we've seen on it. The auto attack damage, I think is definitely going to be noticed. But the level 16, like 1620 Sonya was insane.
It was.
And you're still really reliant on interrupting her whirlwind, but the 1620 talents were just crazy. So I agree with Dunk a lot. I think this is definitely super Hero League targeted. I think she had a place in HGC. I think this definitely takes her down a notch in terms of priority. I don't even know if we had her in North America. I mean, if she was, it was very limited this past week. But I think that this is definitely focused towards like those games you're like, Jesus, none of us can kill Sonya. Can we please kill this hero? Why is she hurting us so bad? I think that's kind of that situation that we're approaching here.
You know, I'm super interested to see like what kind of impact this has on in terms of her builds, because like when you look at Sonya, you pretty much go Poison Spear. It gives her that kill potential, right? It gives her the additional damage. And they've nerfed that twice now, and this is because it's such a common ability to see on Sonya just across the board. People go with that ability, but her level 7 tier isn't like terrible, right? She has a self-sustain active that's literally like Thrall has a similar talent, but she has a self-sustain active. Follow through after every slam, you're gonna get 4% additional damage, so that's like more sustained DPS on the Sonya. So theoretically that could be nice for like the PvE if you need a little bit more oomph in there versus a boss or whatever, but also just for being on a single target. It's not as front loaded, but of course it's still more DPS. And then actually once upon a time, Composite Spear was actually a pretty prominent talent for Sonya, because again it's additional range, you get more fury with the package, and then you pair that with Mystical Spirit 13, and then Sonya's got some really nice mobility and options for her to do whatever the hell she wants, get out of harm's way in a lot of good cases. So I don't know if we're going to start to see that differentiation happening in pro play or what, but it would be nice to see that, because obviously they haven't buffed any of these talents. They're just nerfing the big talents. But it's hard to say if we'll see people experiment.
The 16 nerf is an indirect buff to her tank build to now go Imposing Presence, right?
That's true. I mean, it's not the worst. It's not the worst way of looking at it, though, right? I mean, she's not she's not a tank, but Imposing Presence is not a bad ability by any means. In some compositions, it could be huge. and people don't even think about it. They're like, all right, I need the self-sustain. But when you stack
forces
Nerves
you
of
now
Steel,
to think about other talents. The Furious Blow, I think, would be. Actually, no, it's still going to be Nerves of Steel.
Slam
I
Build
mean, I
is
think it is, yeah.
Slam Build is pretty booty. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I just don't think Nerves of Steel. I mean, that's a pretty significant nerf.
it
and
is.
I still think it's going to be top tier.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean,
I could see the movement speed actually being common too. Like that is surprisingly good.
yeah.
In a universe where like you don't have a Lucio on your team, the movement speed is actually pretty significant improvement to your uptime on actually hitting targets, which might be better if you're not getting into like full 5v5s running from the front.
Dude, you get to press E and be like, speed boost.
Dude, Corny had a great idea. So in Diablo 3, you could go Leap Quake. I think that you should get that. So there's an item, I know a little bit about Diablo, the Loot Socks, however you want to say it, where you get additional jumps. You should get like 1 additional charge of your leap.
At 20?
Dude, how awesome would that be?
Do you know,
like,
that sounds so
bunny hop,
busted,
like,
dude.
Twice? That would be so much fun, though. Like, go leap and then get like a second charge on it at 20. Like, forget the creator. Just give her like a second
she's so
charge.
Fast. She's
You don't
so
have to
fast.
change anything in the game. You literally just give her a second charge.
I wonder if anyone would play it. Like,
oh hell yeah!
if it, well, like you'd have to either give it a 10-second cooldown between charges or not let it be used in the same place twice, because that's obviously busted.
Right. Yeah. So like it would. Let's say it would create like you know. Let's not think too hard on that because that's not happening.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's just like when he said leap quake, I'm like, dude, you get the Let Socks, and you're just like bouncy, bouncy. Like it's just the way it works.
I hope we never get that. Mostly because then we wouldn't have our dishwasher combo.
It's so meta.
Should be. Yeah, I mean, obviously Nerves of Steel. It's a big late game nerf for Sonya. She's still going to be good solo lane, you know, in the early game. She's going to be very useful in that state. The nerfs there aren't gonna diminish that to the ground or anything. Wouldn't expect her to vanish from your games anytime soon. But maybe people will start experimenting with her talents again because I don't ever see diversity. I don't fluctuate with my talents. Outside of level 1, do I want Warpaint or do I want Block, right? That's like, you know, probably.
Her level 4 is the only tier that there's, because you can go Focused Attack, you can go Shattered Ground, and if the situation calls for it, you can go Hurricane. And if you're really memeing in your game, you can go Merc Lord. But all 3 of those have a place at level 4. Level 7 we'll have to think about a bit. But yeah, I mean, she's pretty linear. Her 13, obviously, you can go Life Funnel or Mystical.
I've been playing on EU just to level my account. I'm gonna test out different builds with her in EU, just for the lulz. But I'll report back, see how booty these other talents feel. But I want Composite Spear to be good. I want a composite with Mystical to feel like this Sonya's everywhere, passing through walls. Because she can do that, right? That's one of, you know, with Mystical, she's one of the few like, you know, Dwarf Toss, Crowd Surfer, obviously with ETC, but it's not a common thing you think about for Sonya necessarily because, well, with Leap, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. I'd like to see build diversity with her for sure. But that's the patch this week. Bug fixes. I didn't read these. Anything interesting?
Did they fix the Hanzo thing?
Nope.
Grammatical issues and tooltips across the game.
I played one game last night, right? I felt so bad because, like, man, like I haven't really been able to play much the last handful of weeks, and even before then, I'm preparing. It's holidays. I played Hanzo last night, and I kept like getting stuck, and I'm like, and I'm sitting there like, this is my first time playing. It's just like hold right click. Why do I keep stopping? Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sure they're working on it though. And then I'm like, how do I break this? Oh yes.
Yeah, it's weird. It hasn't happened to me in a while, the weird Hanzo bug, but I'm sure they'll figure it out soon.
Yeah, for sure. If that's the worst thing that happens to me, I'm okay.
The worst thing
I'm
is
just happy to
material.
play again. Like, I literally set up my computer watching Dunk play Heroes, and the minute because I didn't have hot water here, so I had to go back to the place I was staying at just to take a shower
Jesus.
and then drive back home. And I'm like, I'm so tired, but I have to play a game. I think I actually played a second game. Maybe it was just one, but
That's passion.
had to play, man. Been waiting.
I think the worst bug that the game has right now is sometimes Tyrael doesn't say 3 on the Mecha Tyrael announcer pack, and I'm just like, you 4-2 Tyrael, are you drunk? Sometimes he says it though. It's weird. I don't know. We'll never understand Tyrael. He just hates the number 3 apparently. Hope you don't have 3 in your name, because then you're cursed forever. You never go into heaven. Tyrael's the gatekeeper. Just like that Murden player in my games today. He's the gatekeeper to diamond mines. We have HGC back in the world of Heroes of the Storm. JHow is one of our casters now, and we're going to talk about it. If you haven't seen the results, the screen is going to be filled with spoilers, so now is your time to tune out of the show if you don't want to get spoiled in HGC. But it's been over for about 3 days now, so you should be safe. You should be safe. I guess, apparently I have this graphic on the screen. We'll start with this. This is a page that you can find on masterleague.net if you know how to get to it. And basically, this is all of the heroes that were or were not played in the first week of HGC across all 4 regions of the major regions. And just for our VOD listeners, we'll just kind of name the heroes that were not played in alphabetical order. Alarak, not played. Ana, not played. Blaze, not allowed. Chen, Cho'Gall, Gazlo, Lili, Medic, Murky, Nazebo, Nova, Probius, Raynor, Rexar, Butcher, Tyrande, Valera, Varian, Zagara, Zul'jin. Dunk, of this list of heroes that were not played, which one are you most surprised? You're a Zul'jin main, you're sad, right?
No. Not really. Actually, I'm not really surprised that any of those heroes weren't played, honestly.
But what's your most surprised? Is it Varian? Is
You
it
have
Murky?
to pick one, Dunk.
You have to pick
I
one.
have to pick one of these
You have to
heroes?
pick one.
Honestly, of those heroes, like, Nova's probably the closest to viable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I have Varians in every single game of my Hero League. Can you tell the world why Varian is not viable? Please.
Varian's pre-level 10 is absolutely horrifically bad, horrendous. He's awful in the 4-man. He's garbage in the solo lane against any real solo laner. So in professional matches, unless his 10 is overwhelmingly powerful, a la Warbringer taunt for a million years, single targeted stun, like, he's just not going to be picked. His early game is too bad.
If we moved his heroics to level 7 and swapped the 7 and 10 tier, viable or no? Is that early enough?
7 I think would be viable, but I don't think it's really. What you'd probably have to do is move the 7 tier to 4, and then move the 10 tier to 7 and the 4 tier to 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you get Warbringer or Invuln at 10, pick your heroic at 7. That would actually make more sense, I think, thematically for the character.
Huh.
But yeah, I don't think that's ever happening. And I mean, Varian can be viable. We've seen him before in competitive. It's just his late game has to be overwhelmingly powerful for him to be good enough in his current state because of how crippled he is in the early game.
We've talked about the multi-class and how it should be a level 1 in the past. You know, he's the only multi-class hero in the game. They've yet to make another multi-class, and I'm sure that's something that Blizzard has talked about at length on their own. But yeah, he just sees an alarming amount of play in Hero League, at least in my games. Whereas I just think, like you said, 1 through 10, he's so miserable. It sucks so much to have a bruiser that is not relevant in the solo lane. He just becomes this. I'm gonna hang out in the 4-man, and I'm gonna cast Q every once in a while. Watch me, guys.
I think I think he suffers from like Johanna syndrome. Is that by playing a hero, like if you're playing ETC and you slide in and die, you know it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're playing like Varian or Johanna, like you have safety nets. Neither are ever really going to be top tier. Like Johanna, obviously, I think might be better, but
Oh, definitely.
you have that feeling of like, all right, look, as long as I'm not dying, I'm playing better than
Yeah.
you know I would on another hero, and that's what the level 4 gives you. It gives you that level of protection of like, all right, I'm not feeding, I'm not dying, so therefore I'm not costing the games, and so it makes your individual play feel better. And so I think that might be a reason behind it. I mean, maybe just a
Probably.
mentality thing. So
Yeah. I could see that. And it's like there's still cases where like you're against a Li Ming and you can constantly absorb that damage with your shield and feel really impactful in that regard. It's not saying that variants cannot have some kind of impact in the early game, right? Just compared to the other bruises that exist. The roll feels kind of flat in 1 through 10. But yeah, I mean, Zagara's booty right now, she's just... I'm JHow. I know you love Zagara.
oh, I don't expect her. I
Good,
mean, I think it'll
good.
be like a
At
very
least you're not
rare
that delusional.
circumstance. The lack of Ana, I think, was probably the most surprising to me. Like, I feel like
She
there's
forces
a
double
it's-
support though. Like she's not...
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. There was actually like at least 1 or 2 drafts that I was watching where I'm thinking, Ana feels like it could be viable here. I just don't think anybody's willing to go down that route. I think the
It'll
support...
happen.
it will. I think
yeah.
it 100% will. But if we're looking at the list of heroes that weren't picked, I would say she's the most standout to me.
Yeah. I'm like almost surprised Ana wasn't played and Ariel was, right? I think Ariel's
Yeah.
in a bad place right now. I don't think... I mean, Detainment Strike's an amazing ability. There's plenty of heroes that exist in the meta that can generate lots of hope, but she's nowhere near what she used to be, right? Her power level has been dropped significantly. And, but yeah, that's, MasterLeague.net was where I was able to get all that info, guys. So check it out. It's actually for sale too. I guess we'll plug that for them. But anyways, we are going to actually jump into HGC. And JHow, going into your first week of HGC, we've had a bit of an off season. We have 2 new teams in North America. We kind of knew the favorites, Team 12, you know, Tempo, all looking like, you know, the teams to watch out for. And the rumblings have been Heroes Hearth. New team, doesn't matter. They're a top contender. But the middle of the road, the unknown was more in the realms of like GFE, Space Station Gaming. Any big surprises for you personally in terms of like how the teams looked in week 1?
Yeah. I've spent a significant amount of time like watching replays from one team's perspective. What do they see? What really differentiates them? There's a difference between watching a global perspective and an individual perspective. It really gives you a direct line of this is what they're doing. And I thought about this a lot in terms of like there's good teams, there's really good teams, and then there's great teams. And one of the things that stood out to me, so this is kind of like the way I evaluate if I'm looking at the TLDR version, it's the great teams create opportunities and they get the most out of those opportunities. That's a pretty generic way of putting it, right? Like who creates the best opportunities and then who can do the most with them. Like if I create 1 or 2 good plays a game and I've got that opportunity and I snowball like hell, good. But there's teams like Black, they're incredibly good at creating opportunities through team fighting. Nobody's like, man, they really did really, really good on the rotation, and now here they come for the team fight. And then it's like, no, they'll use that and they capitalize differently. The same way Fnatic did that, and I could break down Fnatic like 100 different ways in the way that they did it last year. It was insanely good. And so it's like, now I'm looking at that. I look at North America. It's like, who's creating the most opportunities and who's getting the most out of them? And obviously Team 12, they went against LFM, a little bit overpowered there. So this weekend will be even more telling. Tempo, I thought that they played really well. I don't think we've seen anywhere near how high they can be. But the thing that stood out to me most was the way, and I talked about this in a little post-game interview, simplicity. They did not solely rely on team fighting. the way Zuna-style teams would do. It's like, look, it's 3 minutes in the game. Let's go invade their camp. And you're just like, all right, this is either going to look really bad or really good. And then if it doesn't work, he's going to do it again. The structure of that team is different. I think that they're still going to rely at times on team fighting, but it was a matter of like, did they create moments? Did they create other opportunities from that? And they did. And so that part right there gave me a really positive feeling about that team, despite them dropping the set to GFE, which GFE also does that as well. I think they had a couple hiccups, but if I'm looking at surprises, I would say the play style of Simplicity, and it's a very pleasant surprise. I thought that they did a really good job in both sets that they had in creating an opportunity and capitalizing it. They have a ways to go, but I think that they could surprise people going forward. In my opinion, I really enjoyed the change. I did not expect that at all. I think it was well done. I still want to get, like I said, I just got my computer last night when I moved in. I'm going to get the replay files. I'm going to watch some of these, and that way I can get an understanding of what they saw to create this opportunity. What did they like? How do they approach it? Things like that. But I would say that at a first glance, that was like a big standout for me.
Yeah. On the topic of Simplicity, I also wanted to point out that I felt like K1 Pro was like way outperforming other supports in a lot of NA
I'm not
teams,
surprised
and
though.
he's not like, I mean, he just role swapped not too long ago, and he's performing excellently in my opinion, which is something I'm really happy to see because I really am rooting for Simplicity, knowing those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this weekend more than last weekend. I felt like Simplicity had an interesting set last weekend, but other than that, it was mostly pretty one-sided in terms of expected power level sets. So going into this weekend, I think we're actually going to get to see some very interesting matchups, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, there's going to be some big ones coming up. Simplicity, we can talk about them a little bit more. I mean, they're kind of one of those big question marks overall, though. Like, you know, just kind of OG players, right? These guys have all been in the scene for a long time. Are they washed up? Zuna's going back to, you know, Assassin. People are definitely curious. And then they get this big organization owned by the Grizzlies sponsoring them as a new brand in esports, which is a big deal. It's a really big deal for the squad, and I'm thrilled, man. I was pumped when they announced the roster, and after week one, like you guys just said, Team 12, you know, obviously they're a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Expected to they're the favorites in this situation in a lot of ways. It's sure they've made the swap. The Glau's not there anymore, but still, Simplicity still getting the game off them, and then I just can't wait to see what else they can do, because they didn't have the worst start for a team. They lost against Team 12, but they won the other match, right? Didn't they won the other match?
No. I'm sorry. You're looking at 2017 results.
Okay, no wonder I was so confused.
They lost to Gale Force 2-3, and then they beat King Capping. I'm reading his name in chat.
I thought they won
a Space Station.
Space Station 3-0 or 3-1? Okay. There we go. 3-1 versus Space Station. Okay. Yeah, that was very confusing. My bad on navigating the website wrong. But regardless, Space Station, you know, it's a middle of the pack team at least, and that's a convincing win for them. So sweet. It's going to be fun to see where they go. Ooh, Kikaf in the chat. Maybe we'll get him on the show in the future, even for a segment. Going down the list, though, LFM, you guys kind of talked about them. You know, obviously a rough weekend. We'll see where else they can stand. That's not the easiest.
I mean, your opening week, you play Team 12 as your second game. Like, that is
it's Seed 1 versus Seed 8. It's Seed 1 versus Seed 8. Like, you know, it's you can't really get
I don't know if they're going to be last. I don't think they're going to be Team 8 in terms of 8th place.
What do you mean? Who do you think is going to be...
I don't want to say like one team is going to be bad or worse or anything like that. I'm going to try and take a different approach to this. I would just say that from a competitive standpoint, I believe that there are teams that they could win. Do I look at them to come in and say, hey, they're coming right out in the first 5 weeks, they're going to be top 3 team, go to Western Clash? No, realistically, especially now after their first weekend, that's hard to do. It'd be really hard to do at this point.
It's not happening. Okay.
But there were things that I liked from their approach. There was one time where it was like an Infernal Shrines game. They got a pick. They didn't push in a lane. They went and got a camp. And it's like, if you just take that composition and run that in, get some structures, get back experience-wise, you now put yourself in this scenario of, look, all I got to do is take another team fight. All I got to do is take one more kill, and I can rotate this. And it's like that moment right there was like, all right, they've got a little bit of learning to do, because there was like the camp did nothing. They got 0 structure value, and they couldn't catch up in experience without doing those things. And I think that is a look. We're against the top team. I don't know if there was hesitancy to force the issue or what took place there, but if they approach that differently, we have a different game. And so it's like, I think that team, after casting all of those people last year with Jake, the individual talent, I think, can be there. And I'm not saying it's perfect. Again, I want to go back and watch replays and see different things. But I don't think that if they're 8th place, then they're where probably most people expected them to be. But I don't know if I expect them to be 8th place. I don't expect them to be first, but...
I mean, all right, so if you're not going to be the one to say it, Dunk, who you think's going to be 8th place? Because, I mean, GFE, shaky weekend, right? They beat Simplicity 3-2, but on the other half, they lost to Freedom 3-1. GFE's new squad, I don't know that they're going to be the most stable team. They definitely feel like a middle of the pack. They're 1-1 so far. They could go both ways. I think GFE's roster could go to the top. They could be a top 4 team. They could be a bottom 4 team. They could be a bottom 2 team. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of talented players, but this is not official. This is my perception of the situation. You'd all wanted out of the pro scene. The roster swaps were happening. The team, in order to retain its spot in the league, needed Udall to come back. So I perceive it as he wasn't eager to keep playing. He retired. So like, we need you. It's like you and Aka or we're out, and he's back. So like, I don't know what his level of drive is like, and it creates this kind of weird situation overall for the team, in my opinion. Again, that's not official. That's my perception of the team. On top of that, Space Station, I mean, they lost to Simplicity, and they dropped a game to LFM. Space Station is definitely a solid roster, but I think they're two of the ones that we got to look at, like, where are they going to land in this season. I think Team 12, Tempo Storm, pretty confident in. Simplicity, good start. They could be both ways as well. They're still middle of the pack. Heroes Hearth, I look at them as a top 4. I think Heroes Hearth is going to be a team that they're budding, and when they flower, they are going to be gorgeous.
I don't know about that.
Oh, damn.
I think they're probably going to be middle for this split.
I want Heroes Hearth top 3. That's what I want.
I don't think there's a very high probability of that.
There is a probability.
I don't think it's very high.
I've obviously watched them a lot last year, and then coming into the season, from things that I've seen, I think the potential's there, man. Like, if I were to be put on the spot, obviously Tempo Team 12 I expect near the top, and then we're looking at Freedom, and we're looking at Heroes Hearth, and we're looking at Simplicity. Like, I could see any one of those teams with the capability to move into that 3rd spot. If we're looking at strictly qualifying for international events, I could see them in one of those spots in competition between those names. And I'm not... Maybe Tempo hits the lull like they did towards the end of last year. They slip a little, and they fall down to 3rd. They lose to the wrong team. Maybe they lose to one of the teams that they shouldn't, and then Heroes Hearth gets the advantage. And, there's different things that could happen. From what I've seen, and it's been a lot, I would say the probability, I'm not saying it's extremely high, but I'd say it's definitely higher than what you're probably thinking.
I mean, Chad's talking about this right now. It's we got to see Arthalon play an OG style of Asmodee that Arthalon was famous for, by the way. Taste for Blood. He's one of the first players to bust out Asmodee and farm up those stacks and play that mini game and use it. And Granted, they didn't win this game, right? But it's still showing that they're going to be playing a little bit of their own game, and I think that's a really big deal for these kind of teams. You've got to be willing to take those risks. You've got to be willing to play your own game here and there and use these kind of strats. And I think there's a lot of talent on this team. There's a lot of hunger. Guys like Ishbu and BBJ, they're new to the scene. They're very eager to rise to the top. And on top of that, they have the foundation of guys like McIntyre, Crone, and Narthlon who have been to these major lands, big to these big events. So I think the marriage of that, the new and the old in this squad, and like the redemption that Mac and Crone want, and Narthlon practicing 2 hours a day, I think we're going to see this team do pretty well overall. I'm excited. I mean, obviously last week we had some pretty good peer reviews from our guests just talking about Heroes Hearth as a squad in scrims, but I'm pumped to see where they go. We are actually already about 2 hours into the show, so we have to just kind of power through, because I thought today was going to be a short episode, but apparently there's always a
We
lot.
talked about Sylvanas for half an hour.
God damn it, JHow! But you know, I know a good opening week for NA. I think the meta was pretty flat overall. I mean, we talked about, like, you know, the Shimada Mata meta, or the Mata Shimada meta, however you want to say it, where Genji Hanzo super prominent, always. Genji was probably banned 80% of the time or something. Hanzo was picked if he wasn't banned most of the time, like very, very prominent in those games. Greymane's very strong in just about everything. He's got poke, he's got merc, he's got clear, he's got kill potential, he's got 2 heroics. Like, those heroes are going to be good. We're seeing some balance changes happen now. On the side of EU, we don't have our Lord Bakery with us here. This, again, week 1 is a lot of like seed 8 versus seed 1. It's not the most dynamic matchups that you could hope for a lot of the times with these situations, especially with new teams entering the league. But I think the big takeaway is we got Method now, right? And Method is looking pretty good. Fnatic is not looking dominant, but Dignitas is. Dig looks like they're on their own playing field in the EU scene. And do you guys agree or disagree with that?
I agree.
Who's on their own playing field?
Dig. They're just on their own level in EU. Fnatic is no longer in the same tier as them. Fnatic and Method are now in a tier. Dig is above that tier.
I'm not saying it'll stay like that. I think Dig opened really strong though, but again, early matchups.
If you tell me I have Wubby and Snitch on the same team, I'm feeling pretty good about the fact that I have the best solo laner in the world. Plus, I have probably one of the most flexible players in the world. Like, everything else around that can fit. And as long as Polk continues to come into his own, Zayli obviously switching roles, and then JPL, who's always been at the top in tank role, I feel pretty good about
even
that team
Zalia.
always...
Zalia looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, he's not on Bakery's level yet, but he has the potential to be. Like, Bakery is a legend, dude.
Well, Zalia doesn't.
He's got, but working him in, like, he's got room and time to improve. Like, you can, like, Dunk, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but when it comes to a team, right? Like, if I'm confident in the people around me, I can now maybe experiment or do some things or stretch my limits a little bit further to be like, hey, I can pull that off. Versus, say, like, if you're on a team where there's more pressure, you're trying to get in, you don't necessarily, you're like, the stress is there to play textbook perfect instead of, like, kind of bending the rules a little bit, as in terms of, like, being able to be flexible. Like, last year, Baker's like, what if I'm just going to go ahead and de-shield myself to walk right through this Emerald Wind and then, like, set up some killer plays? Like, that comes from just insane amounts of times of practice to be able to do that without second thinking. Like, that is like, and those were so frequent that they're almost hard to show just how effective a lot of those things were. Zalia is more than capable. So I think him on this role on this team does give him a lot of ceiling to, like, grow, and I think that will make them really
he's already shown it with some heroes, like Lucio. Just looking at Gold Club, like, his Lucio was disgusting in that tournament, right? And that was his first showing on support. So yeah, Zalia is definitely a beast. But Yeah, the EU side of things, I mean, I think a lot of the upcoming matchups this coming week are really going to show us a lot more as to what to expect from that region, just because the matchups are heating up a little bit, if you will. We can actually look at the schedule for NA and EU, and we're going to talk a little bit about certain heroes like Tychus, who have been very prominent in the games that you might not have expected from your Hero League experiences. So Method versus Fnatic, a big matchup for Method, former expert squad, now sponsored by Method, going up against Fnatic. I think these teams are, kind of in that 2-3 position. Who is going to reign supreme? That's going to be the first matchup on Friday. Oh my God, I'm actually really pumped for that. Like, that's a mark your calendar, get ready to watch match right there. Dig Diamond Skin, not so much. Dig is definitely the favorites. We'll see. I expect a 3-0 there. Diamond Skin proved me wrong. Let's go. But Leftovers and Tricked, new squad for Leftovers, Tricked, might be a good series. Team Liquid versus Diamond Skin, Zealots, Fnatic, Dig, Method. In my opinion, I'm really interested in like the Method. Where do they sit, right? And
yeah,
Fnatic,
I
where
think
do
the
they
bookends,
sit?
like the
Yeah.
Method bookends of the weekend, are
So
actually the
good.
really interesting matches. Yeah,
Absolutely. And Zealots, these teams can all absolutely come out and put up a huge showing, right? But the Dig Method and the Fnatic Method, those are spicy.
yeah.
JHow, what are you looking forward to most in NA this week?
I mean, we're in the same category. I mean, our first game Friday in North America is Tempo Storm and Team 12.
Yeah.
To the point that I was talking about Heroes Hearth's potential, the set against Team Freedom that night is very, very statement heavy. Team Freedom, I wasn't sure where I'd see them coming in. I could probably go pretty in depth on things that I think about, but Heroes Hearth, if they beat Team Freedom, that goes towards that probability factor that I was talking with Dunk, is that if they beat them, I think the probability of them potentially getting that third, maybe fourth spot,
that's a
goes
huge
up
match
a lot.
for both those teams, honestly, because
well, yeah. So if you look at Team Freedom, they go up against Heroes Hearth. They get it. If you expect them to win, then they win. And then on Sunday, they play Tempo Storm. So this is a very telling weekend for where Team Freedom is going to stand in North America.
JHow, is the patch updating to the Blaze patch? Is Blaze going to
Blaze will be live, I believe, this
Blaze
week.
is live, yeah.
So Malf, TR rework, Blaze all live? Or just Blaze with Malf rework?
I don't think the Tyrael rework is
don't think Tyrael rework.
That's still really good. I'm excited to see if Blaze has any impact at all in the drafts. LFM Gale Force, I mean, LFM, where do they stand? Are they 8th place? JHow says he doesn't think so, so they get to face off versus Gale Force. One of the teams that looked fairly inconsistent this past weekend. Heroes Earth Space Station, it's another big one because like Space Station, they're had a pretty good season last year, but Heroes Earth now rising to try to contest these other teams. Simplicity Team 12. Is Team 12 going to roll over them? Can Simplicity rise to the occasion? Tempo Storm Freedom. Tempo's probably the favorites here, but Freedom has smashed teams before that you think they wouldn't have. So I actually think there's a lot of good matchups this coming weekend. It's way more dynamic than the opening week, in my opinion, and that's kind of the nature of the beast sometimes. Opening week is to shake off those jitters. Maybe the drafts will vary a little bit more, but we'll find out starting Friday. Tychus. What's the biggest variable that brought him back to the meta? Is it there's no more double support, so we're seeing double tank a lot now with that Bruiser main tank? Is it strictly that, or is Tychus, has he just been sleeper OP this whole time? Tiger!
I mean, he did receive a small buff to his auto attack during the offseason, and that was it. But I think a lot of it is just lack of double support, more double warrior. Plus, he's got... Like, we actually saw some amazing, timings. It's like, I'm about to get... Okay, let me just hit Odin. I'm unstoppable for a second. Like, there are some really cool counterplays there. The sieging potential, obviously, has been good in a lot of this. But I think a lot of it is frontline control, and Tychus doesn't really get punished. His mobility, he has minimal mobility, but it's not none. So he's got that. We actually saw a handful of people get away from the quarterback at level 7 and go into Relentless Soldier, which gives him armor on stun. So I think having that at his disposal probably makes him a bit more viable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about Jaina?
Dunk likes Jaina.
I do like Jaina. I was a little surprised to see her come back in the meta. My impression wasn't that she was super well positioned, but the thing that makes me a little hesitant about claiming Jaina's back to life is that it's only NA team so far, really. There was one game that Tempest, I want to say, used Jaina, which is like a good sign. But as far as it goes, like if only NA is picking a hero, like I'm not super committed to like saying that it's a real hero. But I do think
remember
Jaina
when
has
North
potential.
America was picking Rexar going into DreamHack Austin.
Yeah, he wasn't a real hero either. That was cheese.
So Cloud9 what?
So I think Jaina has potential, again, like Tychus. There's like this group of heroes, I think, where when double support is the meta, their damage isn't quite enough to get kills, and then the damage gets healed off, and then they feel irrelevant. That's kind of like what Tychus was. That's kind of like what Jaina was. So the removal of double support is giving an opening there. And I think it's also the fact that Genji's getting 100% banned, basically, that props up Jaina's ability to be played.
Yeah.
Junk, you love Jaina. Are you happy she's in the meta? Did you think that she's powerful enough?
I'm torn. I do like Jaina. I think she's awesome. I think she's got like a very interesting dynamic to watch when she gets played in competitive games. I don't want her to be like a mainstay in the meta because I don't want her to get nerfed. But yeah, I do like Jaina. I think like Jaina is a good hero to have in the meta. Like she keeps things honest a little bit.
So note to all pro teams, please stop playing so she doesn't get nerfed. Okay. Easy enough.
So I think the only like super big thing we haven't talked about yet is that KSP Black got shut out 0-3 by Tempest. Chat keeps mentioning it, and it is really important.
That was the opening
day, yeah.
The opening match. I woke up at like 7 a.m. and I'm like, the start of the match, I watched like the first like till like level 10 or so, and they had about a level lead, and it was looking dominant. I remember watching Tempest just kind of walking in, you know, letting one person die at a time. It looked a little bit sloppy, and KSV looked really, really good. And I just went back to bed because I was just watching on my phone, and I wake up and it's like KSV Black got 3. I'm just like, hello? Yeah. What happened?
I don't think anyone expected that at all. It was like Tempest has contested like KSV Black and Ballistics occasionally in terms of like overall power level, but to shut them out 3-0 is pretty crazy. I didn't get to watch those games, but I'm gonna check out the draft because I think it actually might be a draft thing. Like usually when a team upsets another team in the first week of HGC and it's pretty one-sided, it's probably because one of the teams understood something about the draft better than the others.
I mean, it could, like you said, could just kind of be like an off-season situation.
Well, Tempest got Genji in one game. Okay, game 2. I don't know. I mean, these look like pretty standard drafts, so definitely gonna have to catch these games, see what happened.
Get down to the bottom of this. Well, I mean, naturally, KSV Black is not a bad team, right? This just means maybe Tempest stepped their game up. Maybe Tempest got cocky and, you know, just kind of was really relaxed in the off season or something. It's hard to say. It really is. But schedule wise, I think, you know, from Korea this coming week, there's going to be a lot of big matches in general. Ballistics, where are they going to stand? Like, is Tempest going to be number 1? Is KSV Black going to be number 1? This week we'll get some more intel on that. In terms of China, which is happening during weekdays, it's got a bit of a different schedule. They're also playing on a different patch. I've been seeing Kendrick Swish's tweets. He's casting that with Tetcher. They're playing with the Neuterial rework, and they're actually seeing good build diversity out of the Neuterial. And his win rate, I think he's like 6-1 or something with the Neuterial in the game. So that's obviously a good update from the Chinese meta. We won't have that same kind of data from the other regions until the tier rework goes live in another couple weeks or so, maybe next week. I'm not actually sure if Blizzard has said when that will be happening for the patch, but we do need to wrap things up. Obviously, there's a lot to discuss in the world of HGC. We'll be keeping our eyes on. We'll be expanding our segments, and maybe, you know, in one of these future shows, we'll get some breakdowns with the players on top of it. But I just want to say hella shout out to you, JHow, on moving across the U.S. for this new caster life, the full-time caster.
It's a crazy thing to think it happened, but I'm here, man. I'm here. I'm happy.
He's here and he's happy. Shout outs, brother.
Shout outs. I know I've been meaning to come on Town Hall for a while now. Life's been pretty hectic for the last month or so, so it feels good to talk about HGC. I don't know, man. I think everything I said was probably the early part, but just, again, super happy to be part of everything, and the amount of support that I get from, whether it's my own Twitch chat, from Reddit, Twitter, everything, like the people around me that I guess really like helped me through a lot of things to get me there, the support, the feedback, everything. It's I feel like it's a contribution. Like, I've worked hard, but there's no way I could ever get here without literally like every single person that's found a way to impact my life to get here. It's a couple years in the making. But I did it, and so shout outs to everybody, and honestly the support that I've received from beginning to now, and I promise I'm going to continue to work hard and hopefully not disappoint.
You're the best, man, and I'm so happy to see you there, and good luck with everything, you know, in HGC. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch you every single weekend, as I don't get to cast with you anymore in Open Division because you abandoned me. Speaking of which, I'll talk about Open Division during my shout-outs, but someone did point out something that we just want to mention. If you didn't know it existed, Korea has these first-person perspectives on PlayXP, so hgc.playxp.com. You can actually see a lot of first-player POVs of the games happening. Naturally, they're playing in a live setting with much more bandwidth than Korea, so it's different. We don't have that in NA. Really cool feature for Korea. I saw on Twitch there was like 400 some viewers watching Rich during the Korean matches, and that's his first-person perspective. I think it's on a little bit more latency than the actual official stream, but it's still like really cool to be able to see that, because you can learn a lot from watching that perspective, even if you can't understand the language he might be speaking. So I didn't actually check out those streams too much myself. I just watched the main stream, you know, when I was awake for Korea, which is rare. But yeah, Dunkus.
Yeah, not much going on here, man. Just kind of doing the stream stuff. Congratulations again to JHow. I don't really have anything flashy, new, or exciting going on right now.
I'll be watching you stream. Please don't stop.
There's no sound on the player streams. Okay. Yeah, I didn't actually. I have Twitch muted so frequently, but that is good confirmation, Twitch. Thanks for letting me know. But it's still really, really cool to have that option there. Open Division resumes in just a few days. We've already caught wind of a few teams that are forming: Iacona, Tiger JK. Who else is on that squad? There's definitely a new squad that was formed from a bunch of former HGC guys that are going to be contesting there. There's word that BKB, former Town Hall host, apparently he lives in Florida now, and he's going to be competing in NA Open Division. This is totally news to me, but that's been something that I caught wind of. Damn, Twitch has they're aggro about some of these players, and you know, it's all coming back in just a few days. If you want to compete yourself, get a team together and try to play, just go to heroeshype.com. You can sign up. The matches start Monday, and they'll be streamed on the Blizz Heroes channel. So that means the Blizz Heroes channel is going to have an insane amount of content between HGC North America, NA, and Korea on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you get NA, EU, and China. So 5 days a week for the Blizz Heroes channel, pretty much. There is, you know, probably 10 hours of content or more every single day. And I think it's going to be pretty dope. And, you know, for me, it's bittersweet. I said this last week. having HGC Open Division here in the Arcanate channel was great for the launching this channel. And yes, that means there is going to be far less content on this channel. It's really just Town Hall Heroes. But the exposure for the players and everything on the Blitz Heroes channel, it just makes sense to have it all in one place, and it's going to be awesome. So I'll be casting that with Kala, my JHow replacement, and it's going to be great without JHow. I'm going to call him KHow. He's just the next letter in the alphabet. I'll miss you, buddy, but it's going to be, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of teams form and show up. And, it's going to be a lot of fun to see the scene evolve. But that does it for episode 168, guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. JHow, again, kill it with Gilly Bro this weekend. Looking forward to the casts. And GG's. Welcome here to Town Hall Heroes.
Happy birthday, sir!